And if I told you once, I ain't gonna tell you twice. Salute all my real ones. Yeah. So listen, champ, we got how the Wolf of Wall Street scam actually worked. Money works. We gonna get straight to this video. Like button, subscribe button, notification bell, press those. Let's go.
If you are watching a YouTube channel dedicated to finance and business, I am almost 100% confident that you have watched The Wolf of Wall Street at least a dozen times.
I've seen Big Short and Margin Call a bunch of times. Actually, I've only seen this like 3-4 times.
It's an amazing movie that's gone on to inspire a generation of douchey sales bros around the world. But there is one line that still makes me angry 7 years later.
An IPO is an initial public offering. It's the first time a stock is offered for sale to the general population. Now, as the firm taking the company public, we set the initial sales price and sold those shares right back to our friends. Look, I know you're not following what I'm saying anyway, right? That's okay, that doesn't matter.
That is funny because that exact part of the movie is what pissed me off the first time, because I'm one of those people I like learning, and if I have a question about something, I'm the person that anytime I have a question, I'm Googling the answer. Like, I wanted to know. That shit got me so angry when he didn't go into detail into the rest of how everything worked. And obviously, yeah, like I knew the IPO part, but I wanted him to keep talking. Like,
no, I was following.
Right.
It does matter.
Yes.
I even had my notepad and pen out ready to take notes. Yeah, well, if you were anything like me, you might have been thinking the same thing. But that's fine. The real Jordan Belfort himself said that the movie was only loosely based off the book that he wrote, and the book was only loosely based off reality. There were a lot of things intentionally left out of the book because if they were left in, they could be considered proceeds of crime. Similarly, there were lots of things left out of the movie because Martin Scorsese specializes in chronicling the rise and fall of organized crime figures, not analyzing fraudulent stock market activity. But that's okay, because you guys have me. So it's time to learn how money works, to lift the hood on Stratton Oakmont's questionable operations and find out how it let Mr. Belfort rake in almost $1 million a week in ill-gotten gains. As always, I would like to thank my channel members and patrons on Patreon for making it possible to make a bowl please when he was laid off of his job at L.F. Rothschild, a New York-based stock brokerage. Back before the 2000s, buying stocks was not as simple as going online and typing in a ticker symbol. People would actually call a real living person, a stockbroker, and give them instructions on what stocks to buy.
Mind you, I only know that because I seen it in the movies. I was a kid, but I knew that you had to call.
And what stocks to sell. More often than not, it would actually work the other way around. The stockbroker would call their client and tell them what stock to buy and sell. The same was true of getting information. Here in 2021, if you want to know what the price of GME is, all you need to do is plug it into Google and hey, there it is. Back in the 80s, you either needed to wait for tomorrow's newspaper or call your broker to see what the market was up to. Now, as Matthew McConaughey so insightfully points out, nobody, I don't care if you're Warren Buffett or Jimmy Buffett, nobody knows if a stock is going up, down, sideways, or in f***ing circles. Least of all, stockbrokers. So, why did they do this then?
You and me, the brokers, we're taking home cold hard cash via commission, motherfucker.
Right.
Yeah, that's right. They earn significant commissions by processing these trades.
Matthew
These days, we are used to zero-commission brokers, but that hasn't always been the case. In the 90s, it wasn't unusual for trades to cost as much as 2% of the total value of the assets being traded. A stockbroker would normally get 1% of that, and the firm that the stockbroker worked for would get the other 1%. Jordan Belfort would later go on to work at Investor Center. In reality, Jordan actually worked for a series of companies like this, but what the movie portrays is pretty indicative of these types of operations. These are what is called over-the-counter brokerages, which are very different from the exchange brokerages like L.F. Rothschild. Exchange brokerages facilitate trades on public exchanges. They would have a team of actual people down on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange calling out trades on behalf of the stockbrokers in their office who would be relaying trades from their clients. As we have seen, this system was still susceptible to unscrupulous behavior, mainly in the form of stockbrokers driving their clients to make as many trades as possible to drive up their commissions. But the exchange had some level of control over all the players in this game to make sure things didn't get too out of hand. If the exchange decided that a particular stockbroker or a particular stockbrokering company was acting in a way that was detrimental to the exchange's reputation, they deserved the right to kick them off the trading floor. This would destroy stock brokerages because if they can't make trades, they don't have a business. Exchanges also heavily regulate what companies are allowed to be listed on their exchanges. They audit financial statements, conduct background checks on the management, and make sure that the company's CEO's mother doesn't pick up the phone when you call their head office. Over-the-counter firms are different. They do not utilize the services of an exchange, and because of this...
So wait, his mom can't have a job at the company? Like, what that got to do with anything?
They do away with a lot of the regulation and oversight that comes with them. Companies can approach these over-the-counter firms directly and say, hey, I need $1 million to conduct funding on R&D on a new piece of radar tech that has both military and civilian applications. The stock firm will say, sure, but we keep 50% of all the money we raise for you. At best, these companies are just desperate for funding to get the idea off the ground, and at worst, they are also looking to defraud investors using any money they raise. Another thing is that 50% number was just a bit of Hollywood magic. The OTC brokers were likely only making 10 to 20% on these trades.
Right.
Either way, it should be clear to see that any company that needs to offer a 20% cut to a stockbroker just to raise money is probably not worth investing in. And that is why Jordan Belfort and his colleagues resorted to high-pressure sales tactics on unsophisticated investors. Jordan eventually founded Stratton Oakmont, a subsidiary of Stratton Securities, which was a small-time dealer that could trade both over-the-counter and exchange-listed companies. Belfort and his co-founders, Brian Blake and Danny Porish, portrayed as Donnie Ozoff in the 2013 film, later bought out the entire firm and started to change how things would be run. Belfort had been making good money by, as he put it,
selling garbage to garbage men and making cash hand over fist.
But he had grander ambitions. He went on to hire a team of stockbrokers.
Yeah, I won't lie, like, it's funny because you think about criminals, right? And people always talk about it. Who's worse, right? Is it the guy in do-rags and Timbs, or is it the blue-eyed brunette dude with a tie and a Rolex and a black suit that's smiling in your face? Like, who's committed, the worst crimes, right? It's almost like that's like for the philosophers to try to figure out. Even though I know the answer is like, would you rather get violated by Bernie Madoff, or would you rather get robbed by a dude on the corner for whatever you got in cash that same day? I mean, neither one is palatable, but I'm just saying, like,
brokers who would all aggressively pitch whatever
slap the shit out of both of them.
Whatever stock he told them to. Before giving this order, he would call up unaffiliated but trustworthy connections who would buy up a large amount of stock in a small value company, preferably one with less than a $100 million market cap. Once his connections, affectionately called rat holes, owned a big enough portion of the company, he would instruct all of the brokers on his sales floor to go out and sell the stock to whoever would buy it. The buying frenzy would drive up the price, which would have the convenient side effect of making it easier to sell to new investors. This stock has doubled in value this last week. Get in now or you're going to miss out. Once the price of the stock had reached a certain level, Jordan would instruct his rat holes to start selling. While this was happening, Jordan's company would make it incredibly difficult for their regular clients to sell off the stock. Brokers would be instructed to not answer phone calls from investors looking to sell, or just to intentionally lose trade orders. This gave rat holes time to exit their positions, and as soon as regular investors could start selling their own stock, the price would collapse. The rat holes would then give money they made to Belfort while keeping a small cut for themselves. This scheme was taken to new heights when Stratton Oakmont started taking companies public. An initial public offering is when a company is first listed on a public exchange. There are lots of rules and regulations involved in this process, but the advantage to the business at the end of the day is that it becomes much easier to raise capital from public markets. Businesses will hire an underwriting firm to guide them through the process and assume some sort of risk of the whole operation. The underwriting firm will then be responsible for making sure the IPO is successful. A successful IPO really just means that all of the shares that the company wants to sell get sold at or above the agreed upon price. Normally, companies will go to investment banks to do their underwriting, but in its prime, Stratton Oakmont managed to court a few companies to use their services instead. You might have thought that the reintroduction of public exchanges into the mix would have slowed down Belfort's scheming. There was a reason he traded over-the-counter stocks in the first place, and that was to avoid the regulation and scrutiny that comes with these public markets. But Jordan didn't let that stand in his way. In fact, he developed a system to get the best out of both of these systems. Jordan would instruct his rat holes to buy up stock in a company that he was about to take public. The company would then debut on the public market, and then he would instruct his army of brokers to sell the IPO to all of their contacts. This would drive up the price of the stock just like it did before. But this time, because it was listed on a public market, it would attract the attention of other investors who didn't even know who Stratton Oakmont was. People would just hear the news that some IPO was up 50% at open, and then they would want to get in on that action. The rat holes could then use this buying mania to silently sell their stocks, netting them a very healthy profit. Jordan effectively combined the unregulated environment of over-the-counter operations with the inherent trust investors had in publicly traded stocks to create the ultimate money-making scam. And that's how you make
$22 million in 3 fucking hours!
For those of you who haven't connected the dots yet, this is what you call a pump and dump. And it was the mechanism by which Jordan Belfort made millions. For a while, it actually looked like these schemes were becoming a thing of the past. Online stock trading platforms and easy access to market information meant that investors were no longer exposed to brokers who would hype up some small cap company. Unfortunately, the rise of loosely regulated crypto markets has meant that pump and dump schemes are back with a vengeance. The only difference is today, the coked up stockbrokers have been swapped out for Discord communities and gaming influencers, and penny stocks have been replaced with stupid f***ing meme coins. Another important part of the movie was how Jordan hid his money once he had made it.
I could have made some bread off Shiba, man. Shiba Inu. Like, and I'm not giving no advice. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just saying what happened to me. I had some bread in Shiba. It was up. And I was like, yo, you know what? I'm just going to hold on to it. And then it came crashing down.
Into that in this video, but fortunately, I have made an entire video on how exactly you could do this if you ever found yourself in the possession of a large pile of ill-gotten gains. So go and watch that video if you think that's something that's likely to happen to you. As always, a special thank you to my...
It's crazy, man. They definitely did a very good job with this video, man. Like, you know what? Because they did what they should have done in the movie. But yeah, man, we gonna leave it there. Just let me know, yo, how many of y'all have invested in crypto? How many of y'all have stock investments? Who hasn't gotten into the stock market yet? Let me know in the comment section. Let's have this financial discussion, man. Because I feel like there's a lot of things that could be learned from each other. But yeah, this makes me actually want to watch the movie again, even though I know that they didn't really care about like the technical aspect of what was going on with the scheme and stuff. Like, that's why I prefer The Big Short, which is really more like a documentary just in movie form about what happened during the financial crash of 2008. And Margin Call, you know, it got really into the weeds. Not really into the weeds. Like, they broke it down some, but that was more about like how the actual firm was affected by being overexposed to subprime mortgages. Look at me knowing these terms, you know what I'm saying? Tranches and derivatives. But yeah, man, let me know what y'all thought about the video. My name is Rain. Catch you on the flip side. RCP salute. Wait for it.